Hey guys, in the last video we went ahead and we created a sandbox component and we output the text hello world into the browser. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about data binding, properties, and string interpolation. Alright, so I think it's better if we go ahead and we just put this to the side here, and then we put the editor on that side, and we'll put this on the bottom, the console. That way we can see what's going on in the browser and we can see the editor at the same time. I'm just going to make this a little smaller as well. Alright, so for our sandbox component, let's create a property. So I'm going to create a property called name, and we put this directly in the class. So we'll say name equals, and we'll set that to the string of John Doe. Alright, our component now has a property. Now we can bind this property, the data in this variable here, to our template. So we'll just replace the word world with the double curly brace, and then here we'll say name. And if we save that, now we're going to get hello John Doe. So we can take data and we can dynamically bind it to our template. Now this right here, this double curly brace, this is called string interpolation. So we can put dynamic data in here, but it's always going to be looked at as a string. That there are other ways to bind data, and I'll go over those later on. But for now, just know that this is going to be a string. So let's put another property in here. Let's say we want an age property. So we'll say 35. And let's go up here and we'll say hello. Actually, let's get rid of the hello. And we'll just say name is, and we'll say age years old. So now it's going to say John Doe is 35 years old. And even though this is technically a number, it's going to be output as a string. Another thing we could do here is we could set, let's say, a person property, and we can set this to an object. So in here, let's say first name, and we'll set that to, let's say, Steve, and then we'll set last name to Smith. Okay, so we don't have to just put strings in here. We can put objects, we can put arrays, we can put a whole bunch of things, and we're going to get into types later on. Alright, but if we wanted to output this, let's actually put this on a new line, and we can do that because we're using template strings. We're using these backticks instead of quotes. If I were to put a single quote here, you'll see right away, even the editor is going to give us an error. And if I save that, you'll see failed to compile. So you want to make sure if you're going to use multiple lines like that, that you use backticks. Alright, so let's go underneath this and we'll put an H2. And we'll just say my name is, and then we'll say person dot first name. Okay, since it's an object, we need to use dot syntax to access each property of that object. Alright, so we'll say person dot first name, and then immediately after it we'll say person dot last name, and we'll save it, and we get my name is Steve Smith. Now, in addition to properties, we can also have functions or methods inside of our class. Now, a method is nothing more than a function that belongs to a class. Now, we have a special function called constructor, and if you've ever used pretty much any object-oriented programming language, and you probably know what a constructor is. It's basically just a function that runs when the object is instantiated from the class, or in this case, when the component is initialized. So let's say constructor, and in here, let's just do a console.log, and we're going to say constructor ran. And we'll save this, and then as soon as this reloads, you'll see down here it says constructor ran, because since this component was initialized, this is going to run. Whatever we put in here is going to run. Now, these properties here, we have access to these in all of the methods inside of the class, okay, including the constructor. So if we wanted to, we could take one of those properties, let's say age, and we could access it by using this. Okay, this is pertaining to this class, and we can access anything in it, whether it's a property or a method. We just have to use this dot. Okay, so we'll say this dot age, and let's set that to 36. Okay, and then if I go and actually let's just save that and let it reload, and you'll see now it's 36. because the constructor ran and it changed what we initially set this property. Now you don't even have to set a value up here when you set your properties, so we could just take that off if we wanted to and save it, and we're still going to get John Doe is 36 years old, and we're not going to get any errors or anything. And you'll often see this. You'll see the variable or the property initialized up here, but then set down here in the constructor or in some other lifecycle hook. Alright, but for now I'm just going to keep that set to 35, and then I'm going to comment this out. Now we can also create our own functions down here, or methods, whatever you want to call them. And let's create one called hasBirthday. And then what I want to do is just like we did in the constructor, I want to manipulate the age property. So we're going to say this.age, and instead of explicitly setting it to 36, let's just do plus equals 1, which is going to add 1 to it. Alright, so they have a birthday and they age a year, obviously. Now, if I go ahead and I save this, you'll see it's still 35. The reason for that is this has not run. Okay, a constructor is going to run automatically, but any other custom method that we create is not. But we can call it from the constructor if we want. So if we say this dot has birthday, and then we save it, you'll see now it's 36. Alright, and I could call this more than once if I wanted to. So if I called it again, we'll save, and now it's 37, and we can call it as many times as we want. Alright, so you can see that a component class is nothing more than properties and methods. Now when it comes to this string interpolation, we don't have to just use dynamic properties. We can put other expressions in here as well. So if I were to put a UL here and put an LI in here, let's put in our double curly brace, and we could just put a string in here. So if we put some quotes and we say hello world and save, you'll see that that's actually going to output on the screen. We could also do let's do 1, we'll say 1 plus 1, and that'll actually do the addition for us and output it as a string. Another thing we could do is we could call a function. For instance, let's go down here and we'll create a function called showAge, and then let's just return this.age, and then up here we can put in our double curly braces, and we can say show age with our parentheses because it's a function. Alright, we'll save that and we get 37. Now even though we set it to 35, the constructor runs and it adds 2 years because we called hasBirthday twice. Alright, so hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea of what is included in a component. Okay, we have the class with the properties and methods, and we have the template. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the different types we can use, because again, Angular uses TypeScript, and we can set these to static types such as a string or a number and some other things. So that's what we'll get into in the next video.